reason it's called Pediatric Cancer is from the song Watch Me Whip, Watch Me Nae Nae. I posted a 14-second video of myself doing the whip and nae nae in my backyard. My brother recorded it really quickly, and kind of overnight it went viral.
I think that's when is either when you ring the bell or when you hit that 5 years. I really do think that's when the fight really starts, because you're then fighting to keep it away, and you're on the edge of your seat all the time. So
yeah, it's crazy. And going back to what you were saying about taking the salary and stuff, my favorite is people will say donate yearly to St. Jude's, and I'm always like, the money they spend on marketing and paying their staff and all of that stuff, like, is you're donating, and you could be paying the janitor. Like, you have no idea where your money is going in an organization as big as that. There's CEOs and just big people that are getting paid big money at, something like St. Jude's or Ronald McDonald House or something like a big charity like that. And I think that's what makes WHIP so special too, and same with your organization, is that we don't take a salary. Nobody is getting paid, and everybody wants to help because they've been affected by it, and they want everything we raise to go back to the kids. But there are so many organizations that take a salary, and I'm like, I just can't even comprehend it, because like you were saying, just that, even if it's $1,000, that could be used in so many other ways, whether it's paying for a hotel for somebody that's, going away for treatment, or paying for somebody's car payment or something like that. That's a lot of money. And, that frustrates me. But I think people don't do their research when donating to organizations, and you want to look for ones that are actually making a difference, are actually doing something and making the lives of these kids better. But it's hard because everyone can market themselves and everyone can say that they're doing the right thing. And you just have to be careful if you are donating where you're going to.
Right. It's easy, and it's almost robotic, right? Everybody knows St. Jude. Everybody knows Susan G. Komen.
Yep.
Big names, right? It's easy to say, okay, I donate to kids every year. I donate to breast cancer research every single year. It's easy. Or Toys for Tots or Salvation Army. Like, nothing against any of them as organizations as a whole, but it's easy to write those checks. It's easy to donate because they market really, really well. But I'm assuming that your organization, much like mine, doesn't necessarily have a massive marketing budget. It allows you to put commercials, like my commercials, they're TikTok reels, they're Facebook reels, or Instagram reels. That's our marketing. You know what I mean? Like that's it. And that's free, because and the only thing you're spending at that moment is your time in order to get it done. And it doesn't always have the return you'd hope for. The 30 or 40 cents that I make off of TikTok videos every month is not really paying the bills. It's one of those things where, you just have to, you're doing it because you have to. And if
you hope the right person sees it.
And that's it. And that's honestly, that's all you're hoping for. And it only takes that one person. It really only takes them one person to get a hold of you, to see what you're doing, to have some kind of, maybe have no connection, or maybe they do have some connection. I mean, I will argue that there's not a person on this planet that can't walk outside of their house and walk 10 doors either way and find some family whose child is either battling cancer or did, because it's a lot more prevalent than people really give it the credit for. But that's the problem, is that people think it's rare. That people think, and you're never going to hear me say that word again. That's the only time.
Yeah.
People think that it's rare, that it's not a big deal, because we're force-fed that. We're force-fed by our government that it's a rare disease, and it's even classified under the Rare Diseases Act. You have organizations like St. Jude that will tell you they have an 80 or 90% cure rate, that it's a very rare disease, and they make it seem as if they have it under control.
Yeah.
But my biggest issue, aside from the marketing and the salaries, is if we look at St. Jude and say, okay, they're coming up with amazing research, they're coming up with discoveries, great. But if we put all of our money in one box, we're never gonna figure this out.
No.
Because I might be biased. I think that Wisconsin, where I am, I think that our school system here and the hospitals, I think we have a juggernaut of of just genius minds, and they're all over the country, but I think we have minds out there that are waiting to make discoveries. There is a researcher down the hall at Memorial Sloan Kettering that is waiting, right? He's got an idea.
Yeah,
Just
they
needs,
don't have the funds.
It's exactly what it is. I don't have the money. And if anybody that doesn't understand, when a hospital gets a budget, that money is going to be dispersed within closed doors to wherever they want it to go. If you make a donation to the hospital for whatever, and if you say, I'm making it for pediatric cancer, it's going all over the place. You have to really direct where your money goes. Yeah. You've got to say, I want it to go for neuroblastoma. I want it to go for Ewing sarcoma. For us, I would say, I want it to go for brain cancer research. That's it. And you would have to be very specific, which is the issue that we have. Wisconsin has $0 that are dedicated to pediatric cancer research, not a penny. Now, if you talk to a legislator, they'll say, well, yeah, but we fight for funds for the university, which also funds the hospitals, which funds research. I'll say, yeah, but tell me how much of that money is going towards it. Yeah. You can't because it's not dedicated. It's just, it goes to the hospital budget and gets dispersed.
And it's like that 4% is being spread all over the country. And then once it gets into the organization, like at MSK, they need, brain cancer and bone cancer and blood cancer and neuroendocrine, like every single type of cancer, you're splitting this like nothing. And then, the different teams don't have money to do anything. And they're kind of just stuck because they have all these ideas. And like you were saying, they have that brain power. They just don't have the funds. And it kind of just like gets stuck in the funnel. And it's very, very frustrating. Just, the lack of funding, the lack of awareness. And like you were saying, the word rare, I was thinking about it yesterday, actually. And over the weekend, I was telling you, we did Christmas for this little girl, Grace. She's 4 and she's bald and she had a feeding tube. And I look at her and she's just so cute. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's like the cutest little girl. Like, I don't see anything different. Like, it's just normal to me. I'm like, she's a beautiful, cute little baby. Like, she's so sweet, whatever. And I had volunteers from the community come out and they've never seen a kid with cancer. So they're all like standing on the sides crying, and they're texting me after the whole night, like changed their life. And it was like the best experience they ever had. And it was so meaningful. And I'm like, I was thinking about it. And I'm like, people don't see kids with cancer, like besides on a commercial at St. Jude's, like they never, they're never in like a setting where they see these kids. But for me, it's like so not rare because I'm just surrounded by it all the time. And I never think twice when I see someone that's bald. I've seen it my whole life. But I think it's crazy to the world that like so many people just don't know. They don't get it. They're like, what's the tube? What is this? What's that? And it's kind of like second nature to us, but it, to the normal person, they're not educated on it. They don't know. And they don't know what's happening down the block from them. Like you said, every 10 houses could be affected by childhood cancer, and they don't know until it happens to them, which is not fair. And then the funding will fall on them, once their child is diagnosed. And it's like the people that aren't affected should be the ones that are rallying and raising money, and the big sports teams and the Delta Airlines, they do, you get on the flight in October and the flight attendant is going around with a card reader to make a donation for breast cancer. Like, why can't, the airlines do that in September? And we need big things like that to come about for our kids. I really, truly believe that. And that's one of my goals in 2026 is to get in touch with bigger, Delta and, I don't know, Coca-Cola or like any like big brand that can put a gold ribbon on a label. It doesn't take them any time, any effort, but it would mean the world to our community. So I think that's something that I definitely want to focus on next year.
All right, listen, you're speaking my language with that 100% because pink is easy and it's recognizable. And I said in the very beginning of when we started that I wanted to become the Susan G. Komen of the pediatric cancer world. Not our organization in general, just the way that this community is recognized. Because you're right. And it's October 1st. Every single professional sports team will be wearing pink in some way.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean they'll write it at the end of the football fields. They'll write it on they'll paint it on the ground, and it's just easy. Like we all know that it's going to happen. We all know that everything's going to go pink. My wife and I had we had a run-in a couple years ago at Joann Fabrics before they went out of business, and I think it was September, and they had the breast cancer, donation thing up, and they asked if we wanted to make a donation. I said, you know that it's September, right? And they said, well, what is it? I said, it's gold. This is the kids. October is when you raise money for this. She goes, well, I think that pink just sells better. And I lost my mind at that moment. Like, that was actually a video that I made when I got home that went viral because I was pissed. I was angry. I was like, it shouldn't be about what sells better. It should be, listen, breast cancer is horrible. And I don't want anybody to think that we believe that it should not be talked about or funded or researched. But it is by far one of, if not the most funded type of cancer research out there. I mean, there's even funding that comes from the Department of Defense for breast cancer research, okay? Look it up. I'm not kidding. And it's like, what are we doing for the kids? Yeah. What are we doing? And if you even reach out to the NIH or the NCI and say, hey, what is your expenditures going when it comes to pediatric cancer? And they can't give you an answer. I've tried.
Yeah.
They have no idea where it's going, what it's coming from. And then, by God, if we ever attack a politician, and I don't mean physically, but I mean if we attack a politician for the way that they vote and it doesn't do good for our community, the only thing we get is, yeah, but look what that guy did. Or look what happened here. Why are you so upset about this but not upset about this? Because we live this every day and we can't turn it off. And whether you're personally affected or whether you're affected in a unique way and have decided to turn your life's work and your passion into making a difference, we can't turn this off and walk away. It's just not possible for us. We want to see something better for our kids. For us, we couldn't save our daughter, and I will forever feel like a failure as a father because I couldn't save my daughter. But we want to save other kids. We don't want to see more kids diagnosed with this with cancer and then know exactly what's going to happen if they don't do anything. But at the same time, you're watching them go through these treatments. We have friends that we're very close to that have lost their children. We also have friends that their children are still fighting. And it's hard because you watch and you see things that are happening and it breaks you, and they feel for us at the same time. But we just want a community that comes together and listens to what we have to say. I don't want you to ever feel how we feel as parents. I don't want any more children. Listen, it's getting worse. And when I say that it's getting worse, when our daughter was diagnosed in 2020, that famous number was 43 kids a day. It is now 47 kids a day. That's not getting better unless you're using some kind of weird math. Yeah. That's you know what I mean? It's
like the algorithm is like hiding the kids that you follow passing away. Like I really believe that. Like when I look on social media, I'm like, oh, it almost seems like it's better, but the numbers are showing that it's not. And I think that social media hides it. Like, they don't want you to see, like, when I post, I have almost 150,000 followers on Facebook. I think only 7% of my following actually see my post. And I think there was something I posted and it was, a little, more graphic, and Facebook took it down. Like, they hide what's going on in the world. And sometimes I'll be thinking about a kid. I'll be like, oh, I wonder how this kid is doing, someone that I just followed, and they passed and I never saw it on my feed. But one of my friends that is on the board of my foundation, she's a researcher at MSK, and she texted me the other day. She's like, I just got out of a meeting and the numbers for neuroblastoma are so bad. Kids, it is worse than ever. Like, more kids are passing away. And I literally wrote back to her. I was like, I almost felt like it was opposite. And she was like, it is so, so bad, like worse than ever. And they're kind of trying to figure out why, like why is that happening? What is causing, more diagnosis and more kids not surviving? But it's awful. And, the families that have survivors of, kids that have survived, even they feel like that. Why did my kids survive and not the other kids? And that's something that's really tricky to deal with, because most of the kids don't survive, and you kind of never understand how you were. One of the other moms that's on my board, her daughter Rowan was diagnosed with neuroblastoma last December, and she texts me all the time. She's like, I don't even know what to do, like, for like our other friends that are still going through it. And she just feels that why were we lucky, and people like you and other families, majority of the families that they have met have lost their kids. And I think, that's a whole other thing where there's that survivor's guilt. And I know my mom has some of that too, where, we're kind of like meeting these families and then we're sitting at funerals and she's like, why am I here and healthy? And why was I cured? And, there's a coffin right in front of us for a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old. Like, why me? And I think that's, a different perspective of, that childhood cancer community, because they're so outnumbered, the survivors.
No, survivor's guilt is a really serious thing that I don't think we talk about enough. And it really, like, I did actually, not too long after our daughter passed, I did have another family that, their son is, he was surviving and doing really well, but he was having at a young age a real bad, survivor's guilt, just feeling like, again, why am I here? Why did my friends pass? Why did they pass? Well, why did I survive? And, they're honestly questions or answers to questions we'll never have. We'll never understand it. We'll never know why. But it's a very serious thing. We're trying to do the best. And I will honestly say something too, and it might be a little bit controversial. And I lie. I do base everything I do about making controversy because I think that's how you spark conversation. Yeah. But I feel sometimes that my wife and I and my family we're in a better place because our daughter passed. And I only say that because we're not living on the edge of our seat every single day waiting for something to happen. I feel like we're in a better place sometimes than families that are still fighting because, again, we watch them get up and they've got a fever, they get sick, they get a bruise, their blood work doesn't look good, whatever. And I'm like, God, I can't, like, I don't want to think about something bad happening to them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't have to go to bed not having slept for 40 hours and having to worry about whether or not this doctor's visit is going to turn out well and constant trips to the hospital. But at the other side of that, but we don't have our daughter here.
Yeah.
It's kind of a hard way to look at it, but sometimes I feel that way. Like, yeah, they're going through it and I feel horrible. And I don't want to watch any other child go through this. And we just watched another child pass away, like a week or two ago that we had been following that I'm friends with on social media and stuff. And the other hand, on the fourth hand on that, is that when we're watching what they're going through, we're seeing the signs and knowing exactly what's coming, what's going to happen, but we don't say anything. You just keep it to yourself, but we know what's coming. We know what's I hate that we know this. I really, really don't want this knowledge. I don't want this, experience in life. That's not what, like I said, we're not built for it.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be, but.
Yeah. This is also, you can cut this if you don't like this word, but I always say this, but I have like this really weird feeling. Like when I walk into a hospital room, I mean, when I lived in New York and I lived at home with my mom, we would be driving back and I would say, blah, blah, blah isn't going to make it. And I just like felt it. Like I knew, and I have never been wrong about like a gut feeling. And I just feel like and I always get closer to the kids that don't make it. And I always believe that it's like, God's way of saying this kid is like really going to benefit from your organization. And this kid really needs a friend. And the kids that, that have survived, sometimes I'm like, how come I didn't get so close to X, Y, and Z? And I only got super close to the kids that aren't here anymore. I don't know. It's just like some like sense that I just know these kids need like some extra love. And I also, like you said, you see it so many times that it kind of becomes, like you're not a doctor. I work in medical sales. I didn't go to medical school. I'm not a nurse. But when you're like soul connected to these people and when you just feel it, like it's just like a feeling. And in March, when I was saying how I lost one of the kids that were super close to me, I would bring my dog and to the hospital and Piper would just lay on the floor next to her bed. And I'm like, even the dog, it's a feeling like you walk into the room and you just know. But the parents, they don't want to give up hope. They want to, be positive and something's coming and we're going to try this. And for me as an advocate, it's like a fine line because you want to be supportive and say they're going to be okay and everything's fine and we're praying for you and whatever. But once you see it so many times, the reality of what is happening, how many weeks it's going to be. I could see it in the skin, in the eyes, in the hands. You see it. It's just something that, they call it momcologist. I'm not a mom, but I know that I feel like I have a degree in something that I never went to school for, and just, knowing. But again, you can't really say to a parent that's going through it, but watching from the outside is so tough when you know what's coming, and what they're going through. And for me, I get really close with these kids, and they pass away, and it's a pattern for me. So normally, you're a parent of a kid, you're bury your child, and then that's the only time you do that. And for me, it's a cycle. I do it all the time. It's like, it's not normal, but it almost became normal to me that I have seen a coffin go into the ground so many times, and I'm 26 years old. I think, just knowing, what's going on, knowing what's coming for these families, knowing how it will affect the siblings, how it affects the cousins, how it affects everybody is just, it's so hard, being in that middle position where you're want to be positive, but you also know the reality. Definitely went on a tangent there, but it is really difficult, a medium, middle ground to figure out.
Yeah, no, I think at this point, whether, even though you don't have kids that are going through this, right, you have what is, I think, been coined, and it's been said to me many times on this podcast, is the mama gut. And you always trust it, no matter what. Whether it doesn't matter at any point in time, when you have children, something's wrong, and it more so than a medical doctor. And I was asked this one time, and I bring this up all the time. I was asked, do you think you're smarter than a doctor? And I said yes. And I said yes, right? I didn't say yes because I went to school for it. I said yes because I lived it every day, and I can't turn it off. Yeah. You have experience through living, through being close to these children, meeting the families, knowing the families. You have obtained, that mama gut, that intuition to know when something is, at that point, and it's not something that, no, you can't ever say anything. You have to kind of internalize it, but what's going on. You almost can prepare yourself. It's like anticipatory grief.
Yeah.
You can prepare yourself for what is coming. You can prepare yourself for how you're going to have to comfort the family. You're going to have to. And that sucks that you have lived that enough to know what is coming. And that, again, that true side, what you're feeling, what your body is telling you, your mind is telling you, that is what people need to see. That's what people need to hear. That's what people need to feel. And that's because when you do that, then it becomes real.
Yeah.
Because right now, it's, like I said, it's easy to write a check. It's easy to donate without doing research because it makes you feel good, right? It makes you feel good like you've done something. And by all means, we're not going to tell you what to do with your money. I'd love for you to donate to smaller organizations that don't have a board of 100 people that are making millions of dollars. I would love for you to do that, much like a small business. I would rather you do that. But you have to do what makes you feel good about yourself, and I wish that more people felt good about just making that difference, that impact to local communities, than worried about this is going to look good on a tax return.
Yeah.
But you have that intuition, and that's what I think is the biggest part. That needs to be shared so much. That's what the commercials need to be.
Yeah.
The commercials need to be, I walked into 10 rooms in the last month, and I knew out of those 10, 9 of them were going to pass, and I was right. I said in the beginning, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that you're absolutely put in the path of the people that you need to be in, where it's going to either affect you or you're going to affect them. And you were put in the path of all of those children, and all of those children that have passed knowing you, and that was a positive impact on them and their families. And I think we need that as parents. I can tell you firsthand, we need that impact from people on the outside that just want to be there to provide some positivity for you in a time when you're in shock.
Yeah.
Never thinking that growing up in your life that you're watching those commercials on TV and thinking how terrible it is, but never thinking you're going to be one of those families.
Yeah. And I think even, being in the childhood cancer world, I was super naive. With Tessa, she was the first kid that I met when I started with Pediatric Cancer. I had known other kids with cancer before. I volunteered at a day camp for kids with cancer. And just like, through my mom's cancer survivor life, she would bring us to a lot of organizations, my brother and I. And my brother, he is involved and he likes to help here and there, but I was just like, I want to do everything. And then I, worked at the camp, and then I started my own foundation, and me and Tessa got really close over a couple of years, and I never saw the signs. I was completely blindsided. I just thought she was getting better. Like, I had no idea. I was like, she's doing cartwheels, and her scans are bad, but she's fine. Like, I literally had no idea. I remember we went to visit her in Michigan, and they did like a community yard sale, and Tessa's mom said to my mom, but me and Tessa were in the other room, she was napping. I was like, oh, she's just tired. Like, she had chemo or something was going on. She had treatment. I didn't know the extent of it. And my mom was like sitting in the other room with Tessa's mom, and Karen, Tessa's mom, said to my mom, she's not doing good. Like, this is like it. Like, and when we were driving to the airport, my mom said to me, like, do you know, like, what's going on? And I'm 18 years old now at this point, and I'm like, what? Like, we have to when are we coming back to see her? I literally had no idea. And that's somebody being in this world. I was so blindsided. I actually flew home, graduated high school. I flew back to Michigan after that, said goodbye to Tessa, and she was on hospice, graduated high school, and flew back for her funeral. She passed away the night before I graduated high school. I did not see the signs. I didn't see it coming. I had no idea, and I never thought it would be her. I thought she would be like, the maid of honor at my wedding. Like, I literally had no clue. And it's just, once you see it so many times, it starts to click. But I'm sure, like you as well, you were probably like, this will never be us. Like, this is not our story. This is, she's fine. Like, even as sick as they are, you don't even see it when you're in it. And I think, with time, that's something that my eyes have now been open. And now looking back in hindsight, I see the deterioration. But I even the people in it sometimes still don't get it. And sometimes they're still just like, my kid will be fine, or like, that kid will be fine, and they're not. And I think that's super, super powerful, just because these kids are so resilient, and they're, like you said in the beginning, you would never know what they're going through because they're still smiling. And if it was me going through that, I would be like, in a ball on the floor crying the whole time, because I don't even know how they do it, but they're strong for us. So, we don't even know. So, half the things that they're going through, they probably don't even tell us. So I think that's, super powerful perspective.
Yeah, no, they are absolutely strong for us. That's, like I said before, they worry about us. They worry how we're going to be. And I think that they know a lot more than they're given credit for. Yeah. And I know on the night that our daughter passed, she was having trouble breathing, so she couldn't communicate with us. And at that point, she had lost her ability to communicate. It was, and I looked her in the eyes with her oxygen mask on. I said, "Are you okay?" And she shook her head yes. But I knew at that moment that was where we were going. And I told my wife, I said, "Go get the girls." I said, "I think this is it." Mm-hmm. And she passed a few hours later. But at that moment, she said, "I'm okay." You know what I mean? It's like, they don't want us to worry, and they want to be that, I don't know, they want to be so strong for us. And it's like, I don't want you to be strong for me. I just want you to be here. I don't need you to do that. But we're also trying to be strong for them, and we're trying to hold it together. We never broke down in front of her. We always did it in private because we didn't want to scare her. But every parent, every family goes through this differently. We all handle things differently. I will tell you that there's two different types of people in this community, and maybe it's in the cancer community in general, but from whether a child passes or whether they are quote unquote cured and move on with their life, there's two different types. One is the family that Homer Simpsons into the bushes and you never hear from them again. And the other ones are the ones that jump in the forefront. and just want to be advocates or start organizations or whatever because they want to make a difference for other people. And neither one are right or wrong, but I wish more people would jump in the forefront and say, now we've experienced this, we want to be able to give back because we felt alone in the beginning.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where we are. So like I said, I think that, be honest with you, I think that we're like-minded in a lot of ways with this.
100%.
I also think that we could talk for hours on
Yeah.
all of this because I think that we have that dedication to what we're doing and that passion, and it's not for a paycheck, right? It's not for recognition, it's not for awards, it's not for any of that, because at some point, I think in my lifetime, we're going to figure this out and we'll be able to close shop and say, okay, to JC, to Tessa, I hope you guys are proud of what we did because we did it for you, but you guys also did it for us. And so I will just ask you this. At the end of every episode that I do, and I know you went back and binged every episode before you came on here. I know you did.
I'm nervous.
At the end of every episode, all I ask is that my guests give their best advice to the community, to maybe new families that are being diagnosed, something from your experience that maybe you live by now, the best advice you can give to people listening.
Oh gosh.
I know, on the spot.
Let me think of this really quick. I would say the best advice, and something that I learned from with pediatric cancer, is you truly are never too young to make a difference. I was 16 when I started this. People in high school were like, that's the girl doing the whip. And I'm not a dancer, and it was super embarrassing. And I would always be embarrassed. My mom would pull me out of school to be on the news and be in the papers and all these things. And everyone was like, that's the whip girl and she hangs out with kids in her free time. And don't listen to that, because now those are the people that are donating to my nonprofit, and those are the people that are messaging me saying, you're inspiring me, and the longevity of the nonprofit and everything that you've done is just amazing. And I never let that outside noise of this is different, or this is not what a 16-year-old is supposed to be doing, get in the way. And I think just going after your passion, and if you have a calling and this is what you're supposed to do in life, do it. Like I was saying in the beginning, if it is meant for you, it won't break you. And yes, losing kids is very sad, and yes, seeing this is very sad, but sometimes I'm like, I need to stop doing this, and I literally cannot stop. I posted in March, I'm like, bye, I'm taking a break, I'm done with this, this is too sad, I'm just going through it. And a month later, I was already back into it. I wanted to help, I wanted to do more, I wanted to do something bigger and raise more money and help more kids and do more experiences. And I think just go for it. Whatever you're passionate about, don't let somebody say it's weird or diminish that, and just keep going. And you're never too young to make a difference. And I hope more kids follow in my footsteps, that they do service that's not just for a college application. They do service because it's part of their life. And we're so lucky that we're healthy, and we're fortunate that we're able to do these things. And if you can donate either monetarily, your time, even just sharing something on Facebook, that means everything to the people that are going through it. And I think just pushing forward and doing it for the kids, and just making a difference wherever you can, and just like you said, making a mark, making an impact on our community and the rest of the world.
Well, I think it's perfect. No, I think it's perfect, literally, because I think what you say about you're never too young to make a difference. And like I had mentioned in the beginning, I meet a lot of kids that are super young in this and are starting organizations on their own, that are going to Capitol Hill, that are advocating, and they're doing all of these things when they should just be worried about being a kid. Yeah. They're out there fighting for other kids, and they speak eloquently like it's no big deal. And yeah. I love it. So you are never, ever too young to get out there and do something. And when we see more and more young people doing it, it really is, I think, is going to change what we're moving forward with. Yeah. And we'll be able to pass the torch and watch them carry on hopefully the good work that we have done and put forth, and laid the path.
I think I was telling you the other day, having Tessa's sister Marley with me doing the Rockettes for two of our families, I had a full circle moment where Marley looks up to me as somebody, Marley was 2 years old when Tessa passed. She doesn't remember Tessa. The only way she remembers her is through me. Every time I see her, she wants to see videos and pictures, and we laugh and all of that. But just seeing that she looks up to me as an advocate and seeing her interact with our patients right now, it was like really cool to see that she'll always be impacted by, what the impact I made on her sister will impact Marley and her life going forward, and her, her impact on the childhood cancer community is, it's all intertwined, and seeing her grow up to want to emulate someone like me is really cool. And, seeing the kids on their first day of school, they write on the board, like, when I grow up, I want to be, and they write JJ, like that's my nickname. And the mom sends it on the first day of school. And I'm like, how cool that these kids truly have that role model, and what a positive role model to be to these kids. They want to wear the same outfits, and they want to, do the same things, but they also want to be charitable. They want to be like, what I did for them, they want to do also. So I think it's really cool.
Yeah, no, I think that's the fact that it's coming full circle. Listen, that's the best reward I think you can get at this point, because now you are creating essentially, and I think that's what we're trying to do, is an army of people that are going to fight for this cause. And if they're emulating what you're doing and they're moving forward with it, then I think that's the best reward you can get, and better than any paycheck that we'll ever put in the bank, because that means that we have made a difference when maybe 9 times out of 10 we didn't really know if we really were.
Yes.
We question whether or not what we're doing is enough. Is it worth it? But you're doing that. So congratulations, honestly, on everything you've been able to do. And that's awesome. So I'm excited. So now that you've given us the great advice, and I think we've had a great conversation, where can people find you and help you out in both social media and website, things like that?
So website is withpediatriccancer.org. Facebook is mostly where I post updates, fundraisers, just because my following seems to be over there. So it's with Pediatric Cancer on Facebook. And then also Instagram is with Pediatric Cancer. It might have an underscore. I think it's with Pediatric Cancer _. I try to update on Instagram, but I'm not as frequent on there. But those are the socials that I have been using.
Awesome. And I will tag all of that in the comments.
Thank you.
What I will say is that anybody that is listening, please do us an incredible favor and go over and check out all of the social media, follow, and just kind of read the story. Like I said, go to the website. There's a lot there, a lot of information, all the way down to why the logo is so important, which is really cool. So there's stories behind everything. Take a look at it and take the time to really understand. And I'm very accessible, and I'm sure that you are accessible as well.
Yes.
If you've ever got questions, the best thing to do is just reach out and ask those questions.
Yes.
We want to talk about it. So is there anything else that I missed that you would like to share?
I think you covered everything, and thank you so much for inviting me on to your podcast today.
Yeah, it was absolutely my pleasure. I am so happy to speak to you and to learn more about what your organization does, and hopefully at some point in life we'll be able to collaborate and do something together, because I think, again, collaboration and networking in this community is our best key and our best tool to really expanding. So I look forward to that. So once again, Jordan, thank you so much for spending the day with me today, and we will see everybody else next week.
Thank you.